With me now is Dan Kelly. He's the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Good morning to you, Dan. So we wanted to have you on to talk about a statement that you made, essentially saying that small businesses this year have written off Christmas. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, certainly written off Christmas for any utility from Canada Post. There is no hope, even if the strike were settled this hour, that Canada Post would even be a player in delivering packages, any new packages before Christmas. They would have weeks and weeks of backlog to get through. I suspect before they clear out the backlog, we're talking a month, maybe two, to restart the system and get everything going. And so for retailers look desperate for a solution to get goods to their end consumer before the holidays, that ain't happening with Canada Post. And increasingly, it's looking unlikely to do that even with private couriers, adding huge new pressures on top of the GST mess for small business owners across Canada.
So what does this mean for small businesses as they close out their books for 2024?
Some pretty desperate straits, look, especially those that have worked so hard to build an e-commerce presence. Look, we were caught short during the pandemic on the small business side because many retailers were just not there in terms of having websites and e-commerce sites set up so that they could serve customers during the periods of lockdown. But lots has changed. Businesses have invested heavily in e-commerce, including from small independent businesses across the country. And there are a whole host of new small and medium-sized companies that deliver exclusively through e-commerce. Canada Post is a huge player in delivery for them. They're out. And private sector couriers, UPS, FedEx, Purolator, they are on and off freezing any pickups of new packages, and it's anyone's guess whether they'll be able to deliver new stuff, especially for small clients, before the holidays.
You know, it's interesting, Dan, in talking to you, the picture that you paint, very different from what some people I've heard say, that they don't even notice that Canada Post is on strike. What do you say to those folks?
Look, I think from a consumer perspective, we are less dependent on Canada Post than ever before. But that situation is very different if you're an independent business owner. Canada Post is still a big player. It's the only one that has the full national footprint to get into rural and remote communities. Even private couriers do that. So there is a big background role that happens for payments for small business, sending big business checks from company to company. For marketing materials for small companies, it's a low-cost form of marketing, and of course, parcel delivery. All three of those being out for nearing a month, and now capacity issues with private couriers. Those two things together are leading to disastrous conditions for so many small firms. I've talked to several businesses who say that their sales are down by over 75% from last year as a result of the inability to get goods to the end consumer before the holidays.
Once this strike is over, whenever that may be, Dan, what do you think the scars will be on small businesses? How will it reshape potentially the way they do things in the future?
Look, the only bright spot might be to see some return of in-store sales this Christmas season. A lot of consumers, even with larger companies now, are not able to confidently get their goods before the holidays. Maybe that'll prompt more people to go in-store. That would certainly be an area where small firms can compete well. But I do think that businesses are setting up private sector alternatives wherever they possibly can. Yes, we have this peak demand issue at the moment, but more and more are going to flee Canada Post. This is small business owners are one of the last reliable customers for the corporation. The scars, I think, will be there on small business for sure, but they'll be even greater for Canada Post itself and its workers. I suspect whatever the stripe of the new government is after the next election, whomever's in power is going to have to strip Canada Post right down to the bones, and I would expect it'll struggle to even deliver the most basic level of service to Canadians across the country.
Dan Kelly. Dan is the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thank you.